Welcome back. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans is getting hit with a second wave of cuts in just 5 months. 400 jobs are being cut from the department, including the Canadian Coast Guard. The search and rescue station in Canada's busy Vancouver port, the Chisholm station, is closing. There are also plans to reduce the number of marine traffic centres across the country. So are these cuts putting Canadian fishermen and boaters at risk? What is being done to make sure Canada's coast and waters are safe? Joining me now is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, Randy Kamp. In Halifax is NDP Fisheries critic Robert Chisholm. And in Vancouver is BC Liberal MP Joyce Murray. Good to see you all. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Randy Kamp, we'll start with you if we can. There are a number of closures coming. How is the government going to juggle these closures versus safety concerns that are related, of course, to how these closures?
Well, just so we understand the process, because we take very seriously the responsibility to spend taxpayers' dollars wisely as part of our strategic and operating review. We looked at every program, every expenditure connected with those programs to ensure that they were delivering the mandate that we had in an efficient and effective way. And as we did that, we found some savings for Canadians that will allow us to do that in a more efficient way. With respect to both Fisheries and Oceans and Coast Guard savings, almost all of those have to do with administration and financial services, and the frontline services like search and rescue will remain the same, and we'll have the resources in place that we need.
So people shouldn't read these cuts, read into these cuts that in some way safety is diminished if they're closing, one section of search and rescue or one section of the Coast Guard and not another. The government is convinced that safety can still be guaranteed in those instances.
Yeah, absolutely. The one on Vancouver, of course, is a case in point.
Yeah. And how can you say that? I'll let everyone else in a second. How do you know for sure that safety is guaranteed even though you're closing one?
Well, we take a very careful look at these programs to ensure that the program will continue to provide the service. The safety of mariners is part of our core mandate and a very high priority for us, and that's why we look at it very carefully to ensure that we'll be able to deliver that service.
We're of course talking about the Chisholm Search and Rescue Centre, and Joyce, I'll get you to weigh in on that shortly. But Robert Chisholm, can you first weigh in on your concern, if you have any, that the closures are somehow mitigated by new technology and by what Randy Kamp is saying, sort of redundancies or inefficiencies, not on the front line but behind in the offices?
Well, it's frankly nonsense. It's exactly what it is. Tell the family of the 14-year-old boy in Labrador, who was lost, and we weren't able to find him in time because of the cutbacks in search and rescue. Tell that to the crewman aboard the boat off of Newfoundland, who got advice from an Italian doctor that he couldn't understand. I mean, this government seems to be living in la-la land when they're talking about the fact that this is all about efficiencies. They're cutting services to mariners on all coasts. They're cutting science that is meant to protect our fishery, to protect our environment, and then they sit back and suggest that it's not going to have any impact on us or on the economy of this country. They're wrong, and unfortunately, we're going to find out they're wrong.
Okay.
But we were in the town hall last night here in Halifax. 100 people were there. A lot of them former DFO, people that are involved in the industry, and they told us about the concerns, about the real situation facing the fishery on this coast. And they're very, very concerned. Okay,
Randy Kamp, I'll let you respond in just a minute. But Joyce Murray, I want you to weigh in specifically on what's happening on the West Coast, and that's the Chisholm Search and Rescue Station being closed, and it's I guess 17 nautical miles from one near Richmond, BC, and so that's how the government is justifying the closure of that. What are the concerns for people out on the West Coast about risks versus efficiencies there?
Well, deep concerns, Rosemary, and 17 nautical miles can make the difference between 5 minutes response time and an hour and 5 minutes response time. And as you know, in these waters and certain times of the year, a person can't survive more than 15 minutes in the water. So when Randy says the government's priority is finding savings, I would say the Liberal Party's priority is the health and safety of Canadians, and this move is definitely going to risk lives in Canada's busiest port and in a recreational boating heaven. The Coast Guard were providing 24-hour frontline safety services.
Okay, so those are some pretty serious allegations there, Randy Kamp. Did the government do any sort of studies into how these particular closures would impact safety and risk management, particularly on the West Coast, I guess, but anywhere else? Were any studies done to back up what you're saying?
Well, of course. When we asked the officials to analyze their services that they're providing and try to determine if they are done in the most effective way, of course, we did very careful analysis. With respect to the Kitsilano closure, as we did this review, across the country, we found a unique situation in the Sea Island base and Kitsilano, with them being so close together, with largely overlapping areas of service, and we've felt that we can provide that service through Sea Island. We have a new hovercraft that we are bringing online in 2013, and we've also said that we're going to be developing an inshore rescue boat station that will operate during the busy summer months. So British Columbians don't need to be concerned.
These are lots of promises.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Lots of promises. It's a government that has been consistently breaking its promises. And Rosemary, this is part of a whole set of other cuts to emergency and frontline services here in British Columbia, like the emergency services group that is going to be moving to Alberta, that would be providing services for an emergency like an earthquake, and we're on a fault line. And also, it's on top of the Environment Canada emergency spill group. 40 of those people are being eliminated, their jobs eliminated, and the rest are being moved to Quebec. So there's a pattern here.
Robert Chisholm, I mean, Randy Kamp is saying the government didn't just do this willy-nilly. There was some analysis that went into this before they made these cuts to make sure that safety was an issue and that it wasn't thrown out the window.
Well, listen, the government says, trust us, they say to seniors, trust us. We're not going to dig into your pockets and take $12,000 a year away until the year 2023. It doesn't give people much comfort. Okay. If they did an analysis, why don't they present it to Canadians? Why don't they allow us to take the sections in the Budget Implementation Act, take it out, send it to the Standing Committee for analysis, and they can present the studies that they've done to show the people in Vancouver that, in fact, the closure of the Kitsilano base is not going to endanger mariners in the busiest harbor in North America. I mean, it's just utterly outrageous what this government is contending.
Last point, Randy Kamp. Why don't you do that? If there were studies done, why not put those forward and show that the government's on the right track?
Well, to the broader point, I mean, I find it disappointing, perhaps not surprising, that the NDP, and it sounds like the Liberals too, think that we can't take a budget of close to $2 billion and look at the way programs are delivered using new technology and so on, and find really
we'd like to see you explain
modest
Randy.
savings that will allow us to deliver our services to Canadians in an effective way.
But Randy Kamp, to my specific point, why not put forward those reports about safety and that you can make these cuts without putting anyone at risk?
Well, I can assure you that all of these changes were made very carefully. We had officials who looked at past track records and so on to determine that we can make these changes in a very safe way.
I'm going to have to wrap it up there. I'm guessing that the reports are not being made public. That's how I'm going to interpret that, Randy Kamp. Randy Kamp, Robert Chisholm, Joyce Murray, got to go. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks.